Hello. It is 4:22 p.m. on January 5th, 2021. I have my jacket on. I understand that tomorrow, January 6th, 2021, there is an anticipation that the Vice President will certify the election results from the 2020 election. And there's been some contestation, including lawsuits that have been filed contesting the election results. I will also say, however, that prior to any of those lawsuits, there was already an attempt to petition the Supreme Court of the United States concerning implementation, or rather passage by the Senate, of a law on January 6th of 2020. I submitted a petition to the Supreme Court of the United States that was dated for January 16th of 2020 regarding a request for petition for articles of impeachment of the United States Senate in consideration of S3076 passed by the United States Senate on January 6th of 2020. S3076 is an act to release a federal reversionary interest in Chester County, Tennessee, to manage certain federal land in Bath County, Virginia, and for other purposes. I sent a cover letter that also discussed the petition. I've already shown, presumably it's been stamped as received by the Supreme Court of the United States. And I also allowed for an understanding that I was sending it to the Solicitor General of the United States. And requested specific instruction in how to proceed. Now, at the time, I understand that there was some sort of alert that was going on in Washington, D.C., and there was a contestation concerning the budget process, and I was told that my petition was held at the security shack for a particular period of time, and then it was sent to another location off-site for processing before it was allowed to actually be sent into the actual facility of the Supreme Court and to be received formally and officially. I had several phone calls confirming these matters, and I have that record if necessary. There is the possibility that when it was sent off site, something else was done with it in the time between when it was received by the security at the Supreme Court and then actually received by who represented themselves as the clerk of the court. This is potentially a matter of concern. In terms of what the implications are now, I believe that I have more than proven my charges, and I believe that there has been more than enough evidence to demonstrate that the United States Senate actually did, in fact, pass this specific bill, as well as other pieces of legislation, with an intent to defraud the people and in manners that constitute violations of the 13th Amendment. From what I found just today, or actually just in the last several days, I am very concerned that this is also part of a conspiracy to intentionally undermine the federal government in order to allow it to be usurped and or allow for a illegitimate command to be assumed. The charges of election interference, I believe, are subsidiary or subordinate to the charges that I present in my petition, namely, that this particular bill, as well as other pieces of legislation that were passed by the Senate and or allowed to be presented and hedged on as part of a specific strategy demonstrating a pattern of racketeering activity I first attempted to challenge in 2017, shows that members of the Senate, as well as the House of Representatives, but in this case, the burden is on the Senate to prove that they did not intentionally engage the process they did around S3076 with the intent to dispossess the people of the United States of their personal private property and make it available for auction, including to foreign interest. In effect, dispossessing us and putting us into a position of peonage or illegal debt, in effect, a form of slavery. Now, nobody wants to admit what it means to be subjected to the terms of enslavement at the behest of a government that is operating in a completely unconstitutional manner. But we have to confront the reality at the level that it's at. What has happened with COVID-19 has been more than sufficient as a explication of what the perils were that were identified when I first attempted to contact the Supreme Court of the United States regarding this matter specifically. My contention was, as is written in my petition, that when the Senate allowed for it to be sent to the House of Representatives, and the House of Representatives announced that it had been received, then that made every member of the House of Representatives a witness to what the Senate had done in that regard. The question then became, what was the House of Representatives going to do? If the Senate is engaged in a process of proposing and allowing for the passage of legislation that is engaged with an intent to defraud the people out of their own personal private property in order to subject us to a process whereby we are both virtually and literally, materially subordinated to somebody else in an arrangement that meets the legal definition of slavery, is that violation of the Constitution an impeachable offense? And then what is the check that we have available to us? Now, as citizens and as people of the United States, ultimately their authority is only as a representation of us. And if we allow for them to do that to anybody, then the question becomes, how are we allowing for ourselves to be represented? I personally would never have stood for that. Now, one thing that has happened in the last month that I have seen and has been demonstrably exhibited in two capacities, one of which was allowed to be put into the public realm through the mass media, and others which I observed myself through review of the floor session and the daily reports concerning specific days of the Senate activity, is that one of the charges it says in here is that they approved this bill via voice vote. There was no roll call vote, which also means there was no registered dissent. Now, this has two potential implications. A, it means that everybody in the Senate is on the hook by virtue of not putting their dissent on the record. But B, it also means that if you're attempting to establish specific culpability as a demonstration of intent to engage in unconstitutional processes, then you have to impeach them as a class. The entire Senate is on trial. It's not individual senators. And so this is a very profound matter. And so this is part of why it is important for the House of Representatives to understand that they are bearing witness to this. And that's why I presented it as such in the original petition. It's also important to know that in just the month of December, that there are floor recording, there are recorded in the public record contestations of similar processes being done when votes were called in the Senate, as well as a request for a procedure regarding a call for quorum that was allowed to be denied several times. And I have remarked on that publicly when I found it. It happened in the early part of December. And I believe that part of the contestation that has come up regarding the blocking of the stimulus payments that were discussed in connection with Mitch McConnell has to do with what Senator McConnell also with Mitch McConnell also has to do with something comparable. Why to allow for a unilateral vote? No voice of a voice vote. Where's the roll call vote? You need to be on the record. And allowing for certain kinds of things to be collapsed within a larger package does not allow for the specific questionable items or the specific questionable policies to be identified, which also means you're not allowing for an identification of dissent. And this gets into other sorts of challenges that we are dealing with as individuals and citizens, which is attempted extortion and or enticement into agreeing to cooperate with matters and activities we know are unconstitutional and illegal. If members of Congress, if members of Senate are willingly engaging in processes they know are unconstitutional, I contend they've waived their sovereign immunity. There is no immunity for engaging in violations of the Constitution. And I believe that part of what was revealed in the records, the public record, the congressional record concerning the Senate activity that I've put in the public realm for consideration, where there were requests for quorum calls and there were requests for roll call votes that were procedurally just dismissed, Somebody even gave, Senator Lee, he actually gave a speech to that matter about what the implications were of refusing to engage a quorum call and refusing to engage roll call votes. So there is some demonstration that people in the Senate know that there are attempts to try to get away with unconstitutional activities. But my original charge, which still stands, is that the United States Senate engaged in impeachable offenses with passage of S 3076 that was passed in the Senate on January 6th, 2020.